My name is Leanne Martin, and I'm 28 years old. I signed my mortgage papers with the same hands that once folded in my lap at family dinners, while my sister got the last slice of cake because sharing makes us closer. Back then, I thought it was normal. Now I know it was training. My apartment isn't glamorous. 2 bedrooms, south light that slides over the hardwood like a cat, a kitchen that still smells faintly of the previous owner's cinnamon sticks, but it is mine. I scraped for this place. Years of roommates, hand-me-down furniture, and code commits at 3 in the morning. I saved the down payment. I qualified for the mortgage on my income and credit alone. Every square foot is paid for with focus, with saying no to vacations, with the quiet weight of wanting more for myself. Amanda is 26, a freelance graphic designer with a talent for color and for finding the softest parts of people. She has always been the family favorite, bright, sweet, a little bit chaotic, the kind of person my parents call fragile, as if the world was made of sharp objects. For years, they made a ceremony of fairness that never quite landed evenly. One gift split in two, one room split in tape lines, one dessert forked across plates until it felt like neither of us really had anything. 2 months ago, Amanda started dating Kevin, a nice-looking guy with a jawline and a trust fund. At dinner, he mentioned, so casually it felt rehearsed, that his parents bought him a condo the week he graduated. "It's just how my family does things," he said, and I watched the words go down smooth for Amanda, like a sugar pill that would dissolve slowly and sweeten everything. She laughed, touched his arm, and later, in the car, stared out the window as if the city had been stingy with her. I was driving Ethan, my boyfriend, home that night. He has the kind of steady that doesn't make speeches. He squeezed my knee at a red light, felt my shoulders go square. "You did this on your own," he said. "Don't let them rewrite it." I didn't know we were already drafting the rewrite. The comment started as fluff. "It's wild you have a guest room, Leanne," Amanda said, wandering through my place as if it were a boutique. 2 bedrooms for one person? That's generous, she giggled. "If we were kids, Mom would have made you share." A week later. "Remember when Mom said family comes first? Imagine how much I could save if I didn't have to throw away money on rent." Then, "It's silly for you to hoard equity when I'm struggling." I thought we were still play-teasing. I really did. 3 Sundays later, my parents set the table like they were staging a magazine spread. Roast chicken, lemon water in a crystal pitcher we only saw at holidays, my mother's family binder on the sideboard, the one where she tucks report cards, medical bills, the story of our lives told in receipts. I noticed a fresh tab, legal. I told myself not to be dramatic. Amanda cleared her throat after grace. "I've been thinking about our values," she said, eyes shining like someone else had polished them. "We always shared. Toys, bedrooms, birthdays. We're adults now, but the principle's the same. Family supports family." She took a breath. "So, after lots of thought, I have a solution that's fair for everyone. Leanne, add my name to your deed, 50-50. Not as a tenant, as co-owner. I'll move in, we'll split utilities, and this way we build wealth together, like real siblings." I laughed before I could stop myself. The table stiffened. "Why is that funny?" my mother asked, the way you ask a child who has knocked down a tower. "Because it's absurd," I said. "I bought my apartment. I make the payments. I maintain it. Amanda hasn't contributed $1. My father folded his hands. Sometimes fairness isn't about dollars. Ethan stayed silent, jaw set, eyes on me. He is good at letting me be my own advocate. He knows when a woman needs her own voice to ring out. "Sharing toys was not a primer for sharing deeds," I said, keeping my tone level. "This isn't a dollhouse. It's a legal property I worked for." Amanda's lip trembled on cue. "I'm not asking for a handout," she said. "I'm asking for security. Do you know how unstable freelance is? Kevin's parents would never let his sister flounder." "Kevin's parents are not mine," I replied. Mom's disappointment didn't come in a shout. It was a sigh that smothered the room. "I hoped you'd be more open-hearted," she said. "A home is a big thing to keep to yourself." There was a familiar script beneath their words. If you say no, you are selfish. If you protect what's yours, you are unloving. If you hold a boundary, you are breaking the family. I stared at the legal tab on the binder. The edge of a notepad peeked out like a secret. My mother once told me, "There are always ways to make things fair." The sentence echoed now, thin and metallic. "Amanda," I said carefully, "I won't add you to my deed. If you need a place to stay short term, we can talk. But co-ownership is a no." Silence, thick as gravy. Then my father, "Your sister is asking for your partnership." "She's asking for half my asset." "Half our family's stability," Mom corrected. I felt something click into place inside me, a quiet gear. I am not a policy for you to cash in, and I'm not a villain for saying no. Amanda's tears turned glassy. "You've changed." "No," I said, and the word felt like a key in my mouth. "I've grown." The meal limped onward. Dad told a story about an old neighbor. Nobody listened. The lemon water sweated rings into the wood. When it ended, Amanda rose without looking at me and hugged our mother for a very long time. As I put on my coat, Mom touched my arm. "Think a little bigger than yourself, sweetheart," she murmured. "There are ways to fix this so everyone feels supported." "Fix this?" I repeated, the phrase splintering in my chest. On the drive home, Ethan held the wheel with one hand and my silence with the other. "How's your heart?" he asked. "Scuffed," I said, "but intact." He smiled without joy. "That binder," he said softly. "Saw you clock it." "I don't want to be paranoid," I whispered. "But if they're even thinking about finding a legal way to make me share, then your no is going to need armor." That night, I walked through my apartment room by room, touching door frames, the cool lip of the sink, the sun-warmed sill where Basil leans toward the day. I checked the deed in its folder, then moved it to the small fireproof safe in my closet. On my phone, I made a list that looked like a battle plan. Change locks, scan documents to cloud, call bank to add extra verification, talk to building manager about unauthorized entry attempts. At 1 a.m, my phone buzzed, a text from Amanda. "You'll come around. You always do." I stared at the words until they blurred. Old stories tried to drag me back. The times I caved to keep the peace. The times I said yes, because no sounded like betrayal. I closed my eyes and saw my own name on the deed, black and undeniable. The apartment hummed around me. Refrigerator, pipes, city, and for once, none of it felt lonely. It felt like proof. In the morning, I made coffee and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank email to my parents. I typed slowly, each sentence like laying bricks. "I love you. I understand you want to help Amanda. My answer about co-ownership is no. That will not change. If the pressure continues, I will step back from visits and calls. Please respect my boundary." I read it 3 times, then hit send before I could soften it. The echo of my mother's line, "There are ways to fix this," rattled in my head. Maybe there were, but not this way. Not with my life as the raw material for someone else's sense of fairness. Ethan texted a single checkmark. He knows the cost of clarity. By evening, Mom replied, "We're disappointed. We expected more generosity. We'll talk as a family and circle back with something that works for everyone." "Something that works for everyone," I repeated out loud. The words tasted like a contract I hadn't signed. I didn't know then how far everyone could stretch, or how sharp the circle could get when it closed. I only knew the line I had drawn and that this time I would not step over it. I didn't hear from my parents for almost a week after that email. The silence wasn't peace. It was calculation. When they finally reached out, it came in the form of a family check-in invitation for Sunday dinner. Same hour, same house, same roast smell that used to mean safety. Ethan asked if I was sure I wanted to go. "I just want to see how far they'll take this," I said, buttoning my coat. "If they're willing to drop it, great. If not, then you'll know," he finished. When we arrived, I knew immediately that this wasn't just dinner. There were extra chairs around the table. My aunt, my uncle, and even Grandma were there, smiling that tight, pitying smile older relatives say for weddings and interventions. Mom clasped her hands. "Leanne, sweetheart, this isn't an ambush. It's just family trying to help." That word again, help. It always came right before the hurt. Amanda began softly. "I think you misunderstood me. This isn't about money. It's about unity. You've built something solid. We can build together." "Together means contributing," I said. Dad sighed. "We're worried about you becoming materialistic. You've let this apartment divide us." My aunt chimed in, "Family should share what they have. God rewards generosity." "I've been generous," I said. "What I'm not is naive." The room chilled. Even Grandma looked down at her napkin. Then Amanda leaned forward, rehearsed pity dripping from her voice. You used to be so close to me, Leanne. When did you become this cold? Ethan reached for my hand under the table, and I realized that my pulse was racing so fast it hurt. When I learned that love and ownership are not the same thing, I said quietly. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then Mom snapped. Maybe we need professional advice to mediate this properly. I didn't ask what she meant. Her tone told me enough. 2 days later, I stopped by my parents' house to pick up some mail that still came to their address. They were in the kitchen, voices low and urgent. When I said hello, they startled like I'd caught them stealing. I'll get the mail, I said quickly, and headed for Dad's study. That's when I saw it. His desk scattered with papers and a yellow notepad marked with the word consultation. I froze. The page was from a law office, phrases circled in pen: adverse possession, constructive trust, family contribution argument, promissory estoppel. Words that didn't belong in a family vocabulary. Below that, in my mother's handwriting, Amanda's childhood bedroom costs, family vacations, shared expenses, Leanne's college fund, Elov family investment. It looked like a lawyer's brainstorm turned into a moral invoice. I took a few photos with my phone, hands shaking, and slipped the mail into my bag. In the car, I stared at the pictures, reading them again and again until my throat burned. When I finally confronted my parents the next evening, they didn't deny it. We just wanted to understand our options, Dad said evenly. Options for what? Stealing from your own daughter? Mom flinched. Don't say it like that. We're just trying to help Amanda have stability. The lawyer said we didn't have a strong case anyway. That's not the point, I said. The point is you tried. Amanda texted later that night. They only wanted fairness. You're overreacting. I blocked her number for the first time in my life. Ethan sat beside me on the couch as I explained everything, word for word. When I finished, he said, "This isn't just entitlement anymore, it's strategy. You need to protect yourself." So I did. I changed my locks the next morning and moved all important documents, deed, insurance, savings records, to a safety deposit box. I even notified my mortgage company and building manager about potential impersonation or unauthorized claims. The following week, Mom called daily, alternating between guilt and sweetness. I just don't want this to ruin our family, she whispered. It already has, I replied, and you were the one holding the hammer. Then came the whispers from the rest of the family. My aunt left me a voicemail. Don't be so hard on your parents. They're just scared for Amanda. My uncle texted, you can't take it with you when you die. Why not share while you're alive? And my grandmother, whose approval used to mean everything, wrote a note that ended with, you'll regret letting money poison your heart. I folded the note and put it in the safe with the deed. The next time I saw my father, he said something that stuck with me longer than I wanted. Sometimes parents have to do difficult things to protect all their children. I stared at him. You don't protect one child by betraying the other. He looked almost confused, as if he truly didn't see the difference. That night, I caught myself checking the locks twice before bed. I wasn't afraid of physical danger. I was afraid of erasure, the quiet kind that happens when family starts rewriting your story on paper you didn't sign. Ethan noticed the fatigue in my eyes. You can't keep arguing logic with people who've decided fairness means taking from you, he said. You have to prepare for what comes next. He was right. I started documenting every call, every text, every veiled threat about making things right. The final straw came when my cousin Brian stopped by unannounced. Look, I shouldn't even say this, he murmured, but I overheard my mom talking to your parents about next legal steps. You might want to check your records again. After he left, I sat at my desk and pulled up the county property portal, heart pounding, waiting to see if something had changed. Nothing had. My name was still there, unchallenged. But that didn't ease the tremor in my chest, because now I knew what they were capable of. When I finally closed my laptop, I realized there was only one way to survive this: treat it like a siege. And the worst part? It wasn't strangers trying to take my home. It was the people who taught me what home meant. 2 weeks of silence. Then my mother appeared at my workplace. I was coming back from lunch when security called up, saying a family emergency visitor insisted on seeing me. She was waiting in the lobby, clutching a plastic container of cookies like a peace offering. Leanne, she said, eyes glassy, voice trembling just enough to draw stares. Please, I just need 5 minutes. I followed her outside, hoping to keep my coworkers from hearing. This has gone too far, she said. The tension, the disrespect, everyone's worried. We talked as a family, and we've made a decision. We? I asked. Yes, your father, your aunts, everyone. We agreed that either you share ownership with Amanda, or you'll be excluded from family gatherings. Holidays, birthdays, everything. I blinked. You're blackmailing me with Christmas? Leanne, she gasped. Don't make this sound cruel. We're protecting Amanda's emotional health. This conflict is tearing her apart. I stared at her, this woman who once taught me how to braid my hair and now looked like a stranger in my company parking lot. Mom, you're choosing to lose a daughter to protect a lie. Her lips trembled, but she didn't back down. You're breaking my heart, she whispered, and then burst into tears loud enough for people walking by to look. I walked away, cheeks burning with humiliation. When I got back to my desk, I had a dozen unread messages from Ethan. He'd seen the scene from across the street. You okay? He'd texted. I typed, no, but I will be. That night, my phone buzzed again and again. A group text lit up the screen, sent from Dad's number. Family announcement. We regret to say that Leanne has chosen money over family. Until she decides to support Amanda, she will not be included in family events. Please respect our decision and pray for her to find compassion. Within minutes, replies started pouring in. That's such a shame. We'll talk to her. Maybe she'll come around. So disappointed, Leanne. By midnight, my phone had over 50 notifications, some from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, others from aunts who always said I reminded them of Mom in all the worst ways. The next morning, Grandma called. Her voice shook. I can't believe you'd do this to your sister. She's struggling, Leanne. Do you have no conscience? Grandma, I said, they didn't tell you the truth. Amanda wants me to give her half my property, legally. You're twisting things, she snapped. You've lost your way. I'll be removing you from my will until you fix this. That one hit hard, not for the money, but for the message. You're disowned until you surrender. 2 days later, my cousin forwarded a link to me with the message. You seeing this? Amanda had started a GoFundMe titled Emergency Housing Fund, betrayed by my own family. In the description, she wrote, My sister has abandoned me. I'm facing homelessness. She has resources but no empathy. I never thought blood could be so cold. She didn't name me outright, but the subtext was loud enough for the whole family to hear. Photos of us, as kids, smiling at the beach accompanied the post. Donations rolled in, $3,000 within a week. When I confronted her by text, she replied, It's not about you, it's about awareness. Maybe people will understand compassion better than you do. I blocked her again. Then came the social media campaign. My parents started posting long paragraphs about greed poisoning family values, each paired with old photos of us smiling at Thanksgiving. My aunt left comments under every photo I posted. Family matters more than property. Even my neighbors got dragged in. Amanda had started showing up at my building, buzzing random apartments until someone let her in. She left flowers, handwritten notes. You'll regret this someday. We're family. And even groceries, as if guilt came in grocery bags. One afternoon, Mrs. Cohen from down the hall stopped me. Your sister came by again. She said you're having a misunderstanding. She seems so sweet, dear. Maybe you could just talk it out. I smiled tightly. I'm working on it. But I wasn't. I was documenting everything. Dates, times, screenshots. My lawyer told me to keep a record. They're not breaking the law yet, she said, but they're inching close to harassment. It would have been almost comical if it hadn't been so personal. The next blow came through my boss. He called me into his office one morning, eyebrows raised. I got an email from your father, he said slowly. He's concerned about your mental health and your work performance. He asked if stress at home was affecting your job. I wanted to vanish. It's a personal family matter, I said quietly. He nodded. I figured. Don't worry, I deleted it, but maybe handle that situation soon. I walked out of that office with shaking hands and a heart like stone. My parents hadn't just tried to take my property, they were trying to take my credibility. And then the hospital call came. Mom's voice was ragged. Your grandmother had a health episode. The doctor says it's stress-related. You need to fix this before it kills her. My chest constricted. I'll come see her. No, Mom said sharply. Not until you make things right. She doesn't want to see you until then. I drove to the hospital anyway. At the reception desk, the nurse frowned. I'm sorry, Ms. Martin. You're on the restricted visitor list. They had actually banned me from visiting my own grandmother. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment with Ethan beside me, both of us silent. They've crossed every line, he said finally. You need to cut contact completely. I know, I whispered. I just didn't think they'd throw me away this easily. Ethan looked at me with quiet conviction. They're not throwing you away. They're trying to trade your peace for their comfort. You're refusing the deal. I nodded, tears burning my throat. Then maybe it's time to move. Where? Anywhere they can't reach. He squeezed my hand. If you go, I go with you. But even as we spoke, a small part of me, some stubborn fragment of hope, kept whispering that one day, someone in that family might finally understand. I didn't know it yet, but that understanding was already growing, inside the last person I expected. 6 months passed. 6 months of silence, blocked numbers, and a peace that didn't feel like victory, just exhaustion. Ethan and I had started looking at jobs in another city, hoping distance might finally break the last thread between me and the chaos that used to be my family. Then one morning, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months. Amanda, can we talk? It's important. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to delete it. But something about the message, no emojis, no guilt trip phrasing, no drama, felt different. I showed it to Ethan. Up to you, he said, just don't go alone. So I agreed to meet at a small coffee shop downtown, in daylight, public, neutral. Ethan waited at another table across the room, pretending to scroll his phone. Amanda arrived looking smaller. Not physically, but emotionally deflated. Her once perfect curls were pinned back carelessly, her eyes swollen. The moment she saw me, she started crying. Real tears this time, not the rehearsed kind that glisten for attention. I'm so sorry, she blurted out before even sitting down. You have every reason to hate me. I didn't answer. I just watched. I got engaged, she said, voice trembling. To Kevin. I blinked. Congratulations? She gave a hollow laugh. Don't. It's already over. And then she told me everything. After moving in with Kevin, she started to notice cracks. Tiny ones at first. His family wasn't the warm, generous crowd she'd bragged about. They were controlling. Entitled. Kevin's parents insisted she sign a prenup that left her with nothing if the marriage ended. She'd expected that part, but what came next was worse. Kevin's sister, Jessica, started showing up unannounced, borrowing Amanda's clothes, makeup, even her laptop. When Amanda objected, Jessica scoffed, Relax, it's family, we share everything. Amanda's voice broke as she said those words. Leanne, she sounded just like me. Jessica escalated. She told Kevin's parents that Amanda should add her name to Amanda's car registration for emergencies. Then Jessica suggested she should co-own Amanda's freelance design business, claiming she could handle marketing, since families should build together. When Amanda refused, they accused her of being selfish and materialistic. Kevin's mother even told her, We're family now. What's yours should help us all. Amanda looked down at her coffee, tears dripping onto the paper cup. That's when it hit me. I'd become the same kind of person I was now terrified of. I didn't say anything. She didn't need prompting. The guilt poured out like something she'd been choking on for months. I remember sitting there, listening to them demand a piece of my life, and I suddenly saw myself in every word, every guilt trip, every time I said you were selfish or that family should share everything. I became Jessica, and you were me. Her voice cracked. I was so blind. I just wanted security, and I thought taking from you would fix my problems. But it wasn't about need. It was about entitlement. I can't believe what I put you through. The cafe hummed softly around us, milk steaming, spoons clinking. But it all blurred into static. For the first time, Amanda's words didn't feel like manipulation. They felt like confession. What happened with Kevin? I asked quietly. She laughed bitterly. We broke up. I couldn't do it anymore. His family made me sign papers I didn't even understand. And when I told Kevin how insane it was, he said I was being dramatic, that I should learn to compromise. That's when I realized I'd spent my life calling other people selfish whenever they wouldn't give me what I wanted. She wiped her eyes, hands shaking. I'm sorry, Leanne. For the lawyers, the posts, the GoFundMe, everything. You didn't deserve any of it. I turned everyone against you because it was easier than facing my own failure. I took a deep breath. You destroyed a lot of trust. I know, she said, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you I see it now. I see what I became. We sat in silence for a long time, then softly she said, I've been in therapy. I'm trying to unlearn it. All the ways Mom and Dad taught us that love means sacrifice. I told them everything. About the lawyers. About how wrong they were. I think I think they finally heard me. I looked at her skeptically. They heard you? She nodded. Mom cried for 2 hours. Dad looked like someone punched him. They said they thought they were protecting the family. I told them they were destroying it. Grandma, too, she didn't know the full story. I told her everything. And? She cried too, and she said she was sorry. It felt unreal, like watching my family speak a language they'd never been willing to learn before. Amanda reached across the table. You don't have to forgive me. I needed you to know that you were right, and that if you hadn't said no, I'd still be that person. I'd still think the world owed me because I was the favorite. I didn't take her hand, but I didn't pull away when it hovered there, either. After a long pause, I said, You can't fix 6 months of damage with one apology. I know, she whispered, but I can start by standing up to them, the way you did to me. She smiled weakly. You taught me boundaries by refusing to save me. That line hit harder than I expected. As we stood to leave, she added quietly, Thank you for not giving me half your apartment. You saved me from becoming Kevin's family. For the first time in a year, I believed her. That night, I got a call from Mom. I almost didn't answer, but when I did, all I heard was her crying. Amanda told us everything, she said. Leanne, what we did was unforgivable. We lost sight of what mattered. Then Dad called the next day. His voice was heavy, broken. We were wrong, completely wrong. And a week later, a letter arrived from Grandma. Shaky handwriting, short and raw. You were right, dear. Love shouldn't require surrender. Please come visit me soon. I sat on my couch, letter in hand, staring at the sunlight on my living room wall. The same light I used to think looked lonely. Now it looked like peace. Amanda had faced her mirror and finally seen what I had been trying to show her all along. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, this family could learn to rebuild without taking pieces of me to do it. 3 weeks after that coffee shop conversation, my life felt unfamiliar in the best way. The calls, the apologies, the quiet acknowledgments, each one chipped away at a wall I'd thought would stand forever. Amanda kept her word. She didn't just apologize in private, she made it public. One morning I woke up to a notification. Amanda's post, a long one. I owe someone I love more than anyone an apology. I was wrong. I let jealousy and entitlement convince me I was owed half of something I never worked for. I hurt my sister, our family, and even myself. Leanne, thank you for standing firm when I was lost. You taught me boundaries and accountability when no one else would. She ended it with a photo of us as kids, sitting cross-legged on the floor building a Lego house together. The caption read, This time I'll build my own. That post changed everything. Family members started reaching out, not with pity, but remorse. My aunt sent a message that read, I believed the wrong version of the story. I'm so sorry. My uncle, who had once left me a voicemail calling me a disgrace, showed up at my door with a box of pastries and said, I was an idiot. You can slam the door if you want. I didn't. Even Grandma called, her voice soft with regret. You should have never been punished for doing what was right, she said. I'm proud of you. But the most meaningful changes weren't in their words. They were in Amanda's actions. She shut down her GoFundMe and refunded every dollar. She sent personal messages to everyone who had donated, explaining that she'd misrepresented the situation. She took accountability in a way I never thought she could. She started therapy full-time, working on her need for validation and her lifelong pattern of manipulation. She even got a stable design job, her first in years, and signed her own lease for a small apartment uptown. When she sent me a photo of her keys, she captioned it, All mine, just like it should be. Mom and Dad started going to therapy too. Their first few sessions were rough. Mom admitted she'd enabled Amanda out of guilt. Dad admitted he equated fairness with control. But they kept at it. Slowly, the tone of our conversations changed. For the first time, they asked questions instead of giving orders. One night, Dad called and said, I finally get it. We were so obsessed with being fair that we forgot to be right. Even Ethan noticed the shift. They sound different, he said one evening after I got off the phone. Less like a committee, more like parents. I smiled. It only took a civil war to get there. The reconciliation wasn't perfect. There were awkward pauses, long silences, and moments where I still felt the weight of everything they'd done. But there was also something new, honesty. When Amanda invited me over to her new place, I hesitated. The last time she'd walk me through an apartment, she'd been measuring the rooms to see where her furniture would go in my home. But I went. Her apartment was small but bright. One bedroom, a thrifted couch, plants hanging in jars by the window. On the counter sat 2 coffee mugs and a framed quote, "Boundaries are where love begins." "Therapist gave me that," she said with a shy laugh. "Thought it'd remind me not to be a disaster." We talked for hours about Kevin, about our parents, about how our childhood version of sharing had taught us to erase ourselves for approval. She admitted she used to think I was cold and selfish for protecting what was mine. Now she understood it was survival. Before I left, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, not a big one, but symbolic. "It's not much," she said, "but I want to contribute to what you spent protecting yourself from, well, me." I shook my head. "You don't owe me money, Amanda." "I know," she said softly, "but I owe myself accountability." When I got home that night, I didn't cash the check. I pinned it to my bulletin board under a magnet that said progress, not perfection. The next weekend, our parents hosted a small dinner. No grand speeches, no guilt, no performance. Just 4 plates, some spaghetti, and awkward laughter that eventually turned real. Mom poured wine and said, "We're learning, all of us." I raised my glass. Better late than never. For the first time in a long time, there was no elephant at the table. Just people, flawed, humbled, and trying again. Later that night, when Ethan and I got home, he hugged me and said, "You didn't just rebuild your family, you rebuilt yourself." I smiled. Yeah, and this time the foundation's solid. Now, months later, the noise has faded. The gossip stopped. The family texts are about birthdays, not boundaries. And when Amanda and I meet for coffee, we talk about design clients, therapy, and the kind of women we're becoming. Independent, kind, self-aware. Last week, she invited me over for dinner. Her apartment smelled like garlic and basil, same as mine did that first night I promised myself I wouldn't give in. When I walked in, she grinned. "No co-ownership offers this time. Promise." We both laughed. After we ate, she showed me her new artwork, bright as bold strokes on canvas. "It's called Inheritance," she said, "because I finally figured out what ours really is." "What's that?" I asked. She smiled. "Lessons." As I drove home, city lights reflecting on my windshield, I thought about that word, inheritance. We always think it means what's left behind for us, but sometimes it's what we learn to take forward. My family's legacy isn't the guilt or the pressure, it's the courage to change. And when I unlocked my apartment door, my space, my peace, my proof, I smiled at the deed framed on the hallway wall. Still one name, Leanne Martin.